Good morning, everyone. GM, and welcome to another episode of FOMO Hour. Today is Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. And folks, another green morning out there with crypto outperforming once again. More headlines of funds and institutions piling into Bitcoin. We're starting to get bulled up here on this show. Some are calling for new Bitcoin all-time highs in Q2. And the question, are they right? Or are the bears going to win this round? We're going to break it all down on today's show. No Farokh, but we've got Mando. Power is back, baby. So back. And Logan as well. Mando, Jim, how was your power outage situation?
Yeah, that was nuts. Like fully nuts. I was like laughing about it at the start. Because you're like, oh, the power will come back. And then it suddenly came through that it was affecting the whole country and it was affecting Spain and France. And I was like, oh God. And I just wasn't prepared. Like we had some stuff, but nowhere near the amount that I thought I realized I needed. And you know, it's that point where after like 10 hours, you realize your phone's about to run out and you're like, shit. What are you meant to do right now? And then I was like, I'll go charge it in the car, and then I realized the car's only got like quarter of a tank of gas, and I was like, wow, like the power goes out, stuff can really go. So yeah, crazy 24 hours. It did come back like late in the evening last night in where I am, but like it's across Portugal, Spain, France. You still had some issues, and some people have been affected by water here because they pump the water from the ground in certain places around here, and the pumps weren't working. And it's definitely a sorry, I've got a bit of a cough. Definitely a like almost like a disaster movie when you start thinking about it. Like if this went on for another week, it can really get bad.
Yeah. I saw your tweet.
Out the power, we're screwed.
It's a bit of a reality check. I was following it loosely throughout the day. I mean, even into like American afternoon, evening time, it wasn't clear that power was going to come back anytime soon from the messages that I was seeing.
No. they said it could take a week. Yeah. Which it still can. Like there's still power in no power in some areas around here. It was some weird thing. Like it seemed kind of innocuous that it just got taken out, but that's the kind of scary thing about it. Like one power line in Spain takes down everything. It took out like part of the power in like Belgium and the Netherlands. So Europe, I think.
Fragile.
The other thing is we're all on renewable. So like Europe's been big on renewable. And I don't know the exact science behind it, but there's something to do with the fact that renewable energy can't be used in these sort of moments. So like once it goes down, it's often can't be used and like resurge it back up. Just the way it, like I don't think she can't store it in the same way or something like that. But in the hours before it went down, like Spain's energy was like 60% was coming from renewable sources at the time, and then it goes down, and then you can't just get it back up again in the same way. So,
have they figured out the reason? I saw some tinfoil hats, of course, on X that it was.
Well, I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's really bad translation, but they said it was like a extraterrestrial phenomenon or something like really random, like sound like aliens
flare or like something. Then I saw clips of something like a spherical orb passing between the Earth and the Sun.
There's been quite a lot of talk about that. Solar flares are up quite a lot over the last year, and they're going to be just the way the cycle is. They're going to be quite big for the next few years, and yeah, just other stuff like global warming may have been slightly responsible for it. Like, who knows? But it just pointed to the fragility in the system, and also the idea that if power was to ever go down, it can get dicey.
I'm with you. I think it's a good wake up call. I went through your list. I said to my wife, I was like, we need to go through this. I think it's a little bit different when you've got a family too, right? I think if you're out on your own, it's a little bit different calculus. We had about a half the things on your list, I'd say, but definitely not all of them. And then,
it's just suddenly you're just like, oh God, like you realize that actually most of your devices last a day, right? Most of your handheld devices last a day, and then you're really just relying on power. But you're always like, oh, I'll be able to power it up. But I could have driven for 15 hours yesterday and still not had power because it was all the countries in the area. So it's like, and you can't fly out. All the airports are shut, right? All the airports are shut in this scenario. All the petrol stations are shut. Just so everyone's kind of aware, because they can't pay. So you're like, in your mind, I think everyone has like, oh, I'll be able to get out if something bad happens. But actually, like, the petrol stations are shut, so you only really have the petrol in your car, and the airports are shut. Then it either descends into lawlessness, or you're kind of just staying where you are and hoping for the best. So that's why I kind of said, like, after 48 hours, I think you probably need a weapon, because, like, the police said just stop calling us yesterday. So I don't know. Like, you can tell it can get bad pretty quick. So you're sitting there, your phone's about to run out. You can't go anywhere because you have whatever petrol's in your car at that time. Airports closed, railways closed, buses are shut. Like, you're just sitting there hoping that the power comes back on. But like, it's really sunny. It was a beautiful day yesterday. So I was like, just need something to keep the power going. Yeah.
I think having the backup generator is probably number one on the list, I'd say, if I had to stack rank those items, because that solves a lot of the problems. I think, Logan, we were chatting, like, this is actually something, like, I'm quite familiar with this. So where I grew up in Indiana, like, we would lose power 3 times a year. Of course, that was that was pre-devices and like addiction to devices. So we didn't really, I mean, even like personal computer, like, we had personal computer, but this was still like dial-up internet. But yeah, Logie. Well, Mando, first off, we're happy you got the power back. Happy that you made it through the power outage with no significant issues. Logan, still in Peru. He's got the yellow background. Assuming power stayed on there. GM, how you doing?
Yeah, power's on here. I do have some history, of course, with power outages from rural Pennsylvania. Not quite to the extent of, like, multi-day, but, I've had to pass a day without power. So it's not fun. And I'm not sure my family would be equipped either at this point in time. Although the isolation, I guess, helps with some of it as well. But yeah, things are going well here. Last week in Peru, beautiful weather, feeling good. Market's green, nothing to complain about.
Well, we're glad to have you back. And folks, what are we talking about today? We are going to talk about more than how to survive power outage situations. I do promise you that. So we've got Trump creating strategic uncertainty in global markets here this morning. Crypto is looking strong, outperforming here to a degree. Massive ETF inflows continue. Arizona may be becoming the first state with a Bitcoin reserve. Mastercard launching a full stack stablecoin initiative. Ledger and Coinbase offering new yield. Nikita Beer touting Clout's new token launch pad. Didn't see that one coming. Crypto AI doubling in the past 3 weeks. Memes continuing to pump in a couple of NFT stories. Plus, we've got double Yeet action today as well. Yeet is back. So make sure you stay tuned for that. The raffle bot code will be Yeet50 to celebrate $50 million in volume on that Yeet platform. How about that? Nice little milestone. Before we dive in, we want to give a shout out to Wallet Connect. Wallet Connect is the connectivity network shaping the future of on-chain UX. If you've connected to a Web3 app, you've seen Wallet Connect. That blue logo, it's everywhere. An icon of trust in crypto, as recognizable as Visa at the checkout. Want to learn more? Follow at Wallet Connect on X and Telegram to stay ahead of what's next. We love our partners as always. All right, Mando, without further ado, let's get into it.
Who is the man, macro daddy of the land? Can you dig it?
So I have to preface this by saying I wasn't really paying attention to the market much yesterday, but the market seems to be kind of where I left it. It feels as though Solana maybe slightly underperformed over the last 24 hours, which I think slightly surprising. ETH going higher is often seen as like a bit of a bearish sign when it starts to outperform, and ETH is marginally outperforming right now. But broadly, we look kind of flat. The big news that I saw really has been like ETF inflows have been very, very strong. And then coupled with some headline news, which is that Arizona looks like they are going to do an ETF reserve, and it looks like South Korea may also similarly be moving towards ETFs by the end of this year. So adoption of crypto seems to be going higher, but yeah, it feels as though Bitcoin's just kind of holding on to where it's been for the last few days, this kind of 93 to 95K area. I'd be very unsurprised if it has to retest like 90-ish again before it has to go higher. It's been remarkably stable, having made that like 15% gain. And it hasn't really been tested that much. It kind of got bought whenever it hit 92.5K. But what we've really seen with Bitcoin going sideways has been kind of the trenches coming back a little bit. It's like what you said. It's what you said, Tyler. So you've seen the AI sector's really come back. 9 billion for the AI sector is pretty impressive, in my opinion, that it's come back to that sort of level. Big gains in virtuals and AI16Z over the last 24 hours. One of them's on listing. Virtuals just seems to be grinding higher, and Farokh obviously had its move before that. But yeah, just a decent move across the board in a range of those coins, which I think is getting people more bullish. And then on the meme coins, they've been more mixed. I think some of those gave back a few more of their gains over the last 24 hours, but Pengu's had a very strong period here and kind of relatively held on to the majority of its gains as well. And then you've had some like mid-tier runners, which just is a good sign, I would guess, for general risk sentiment. But I've been impressed, let's say, when I turned back on all of my power to see everything kind of unchanged and pretty low volatility. It's a good sign. Macro, I haven't seen anything more. We've had like a period here of stocks recovering. I think it's been 5 straight days of green for stocks, which has been good. Nasdaq back comfortably above 17K there, so that's been a decent move. And then the S&P's been bouncing as well. I think everyone is just waiting for some talk about trade deals. The most obvious ones would be with the UK and India, it feels like, and potentially South Korea there's been some talk about, or Japan. So maybe we'll get some there. China is basically saying there's not even any talks about a deal going on right now. So it doesn't feel like China, US, as I've said several times, is close to a deal, but other countries may be much closer. You had the Canadian election happen yesterday. Carney won. I don't know how that's going to be taken. I don't think there was like a big view on markets there, just that he's going to be less friendly, let's say, towards Trump, and he's potentially a less crypto-friendly president as well. So, yeah, that's your news.
Thanks for the roundup. As always, I want to dive into a few of these here. Maybe just starting with Bitcoin. I think you nailed it. Like, we've been green. I feel like maybe it's just this bearish mindset, like just waiting for it to dip again, because we've had this kind of few weeks now of continued, we were pretty stable at 85K, then we leveled up to 95K and kind of just hanging out here. Saylor we saw yesterday the announcement, he bought $1.4 billion worth last week at like 92,700 or so average. I did see some chatter on X that maybe he's running out of ammo. I haven't looked into that myself. But if Saylor's running out of fresh capital to buy, is that perhaps somewhat of a near-term bearish indicator. You landed on the ETFs. I mean, wild. I was watching this last night because I was curious how Monday would go. It was looking very red until the Friday IBIT numbers came in, and they were biggest day in months with nearly $1 billion in the BlackRock ETF alone. So pretty substantial there. And we've had, so yesterday I talked about Cathie Wood's 2030 price targets, but Standard Chartered came out and they issued, they're calling for all-time high in Q2, 120K. And they're not alone. Bob Lucas is back. Bob's been a little bit, I mean, I think he's a pretty objective guy. He follows the charts. He does his TA, and he tries to make predictions based off of that in his system. He'd been leaning more bearish for the last month than yesterday. His first bullish post that I've seen out of him in quite some time. In fact, I went back through his timeline this morning, and I don't think he really had many bullish things to say at all in the month of April. He's saying we are back in the 4-year bull cycle uptrend. This weekly cycle, we are on week 4 of 15. Expect to play that out, projecting that we would potentially make new all-time highs here over the next 11 weeks, which is Q2, basically. So aligns with Standard Chartered model. Mando, curious, any reactions to that on your side? If you think that's a little bit premature to call for all-time highs in Q2, how does that line up with your current base case mental model right now?
It lines up pretty perfectly, if I'm honest. I kind of said that I thought, we could be in this range for 6 months from when we started, and the Q2 breaking out would make sense. I think, you can look at this from this angle. You could look at this from the global M2 correlation. You can look at this from just general sentiment. Like, it still feels like it's just us again in crypto, and that's normally a good sign, in my opinion. Like, not a terrible time to buy, but you just have to have a long enough time horizon. So I think if Bitcoin was to break out towards all-time highs again, it can get quite frothy again quite quickly. So, as it always does. And I think interestingly, you've already kind of seen some of those memes move already. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I think you kind of know the ones that you'd want to own if this continued.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see that. And on your 6-month comment, man, it's been 5 months. I guess I didn't realize it. So November 21st, we hit 98K. So you could paint the case that we've already been in this for over 5 months now. So into May, 6 months, break out into new range.
That's what I mean. We really kind of entered it in December, to be honest.
Yeah. That's when it fully started. We made the huge move up in November, post-Trump election, basically the whole move in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then kind of entered that range. Then we lost that range, chopped down. Now we're back in that initial range. Logie, I see you're nodding your head. Curious for your thoughts, reactions here.
Yeah, it is wild to consider that despite all the bad feelings we've had, maybe not this week, right, but the last month or so, that it's just been kind of in a range for the last 6 months. It's really not so bad when you zoom out, right? It's cliche. As that is. I don't have too much additional to add. I was just thinking back to, you talk about the ETF inflows, and I know you mentioned you talked about Cathie Wood's price targets yesterday, which, absurd or not, one of the inputs for those predictions is just the continued adoption of the ETFs, of people continuing to pile into the ETFs. So as you see more inflows day over day, or whatever the case may be, just kind of, I can get behind that. That makes sense to me as a vehicle, especially because I've seen it anecdotally as well, right? Like people in my family, my own father, right, gaining exposure to Bitcoin and things like that through the ETF. So it makes sense to me. And for that reason, maybe not. I don't know. I can get behind the 2.4 million by 2030, but I can definitely get behind the bullish sentiment that is attached to ETF accessibility, or wherever the case may be.
Yeah. It is interesting to see. It's kind of hard to argue with a lot of that logic, right? I mean, price targets aside, her base drivers and ARK's base drivers certainly made sense. You mentioned ETF flows. We talked about those. The other piece is just institutions and funds continuing to pile in. And we got the news this morning. Grant Cardone Capital is set to acquire 1,000 Bitcoin. That's $100 million. Just add it to the laundry list, right? I feel like we're seeing these on a weekly basis. I talked about this a lot on my solo show yesterday. The other aspect we're getting, and Mando, I don't know that we've really had a chance to talk about this because it took place on Friday. But the institution's now starting to pile into Solana and Sol. So previously Janover, now they've changed their name to DeFi Development. They dropped the bombshell on Friday. They're going to raise $1 billion to buy Sol. They've already bought about $50 million worth of Sol for their corporate treasury. So they plan to buy up to 20x that. It feels like a big deal. Like that's a big number for the Solana ecosystem, and they're not alone. But curious if you have any thoughts.
Why doesn't that happen with ETH? Like, why do they always buy Sol? Like, what's happened with? It's kind of crazy, right?
It is crazy. I don't have a great answer
about this. I think this is a good sign for Solana. As I've said before, like my thesis around L1s is less constructive than I've ever been when I've been in crypto, just because I just see this massive adoption of stablecoins, and I just wonder whether that's going to really affect some of these L1s. But I think it's Solana's keeping track with Bitcoin all the way up, which I think has been a very, very strong sign. I mean, it's slightly underperforming today, but like overall, I think you got to be pretty happy.
Yeah, I would agree. And I want to get into perhaps going further out the risk curve. What in the scenario where Bitcoin makes all-time high, what else moves along with it? I think we've started to see signs. Before we do that, just a couple of the stories. Arizona set to potentially approve their Bitcoin strategic reserve. This feels like a big one. So it passed in the House yesterday. That was the news. It is now passed in the Senate and the House. It is on the governor's desk. I think there are concerns that the governor is going to veto this or not sign it. It does feel to me that the governor perhaps has more on the line as the final approver of this than perhaps individual congressmen in the House and the Senate. And as much as, from a bullish Bitcoin, want the number to go up, and like, what would this mean for other states to potentially follow their lead? Want that to happen. Are the downsides strong, bigger, worse than the upsides are in this scenario? It's like, let's say so the bill, they're talking about investing 10% of Arizona's treasury, which I believe is around 30 billion. So about 3 billion or so. Fairly substantial amount. Let's say Bitcoin goes up 30%. They make $1 billion on that. I think you see some nice feedback. I don't know that you see a whole lot of headlines around that. In the scenario where Bitcoin goes down 30% and they lose $1 billion, I feel like there's more negative headlines in that scenario. Logan, I'm curious for your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I think it's going to pass.
No, I'm with you. I mean, there are definitely lingering cons that no one, when we're discussing these bills, at least in the crypto echo chamber, we're not really ever talking about. So I totally see that world, Tyler. I think it mentions in this article from Vince that, she had previously said, maybe recently, that she wasn't going to sign anything until they had a budget resolution, but they may have just gotten one. But there was no update on it. So it may not have anything to do with, of course, her feelings on, crypto or whatever, but just, general politicking, more or less. But with all that aside, I definitely understand the risks. There are other risks here, custody, things like that, who the hell knows? Obviously, you'd hope that a state undertaking something like this would, be using the most trusted, utmost, best possible security solutions, whatever it is, custodying with Coinbase, whoever it may be, right? But there are lots of hidden risks in something like this, and you don't want to be the first one to mess it up. And then one, you probably ruined it for everybody else. It might be the nail in the coffin. And two, of course, you would, very, very much negatively affect your citizens and your constituents. So I definitely understand the risks and the potential unwillingness to kind of be the first. But I do think when the first happens, that's when you'd start to see some of the other dominoes fall.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take. So we'll certainly see. It'll be big news, probably regardless of the decision here. Because I think if this one also fails, it'll add to the laundry list of states that haven't been able to push this over. And it'll feel. I think Arizona's been one of the leading horses in this race to actually get this across the finish line. So if they fail, I think it's going to paint a bleaker picture. But we'll certainly see. I want to go back to that question of Bitcoin all-time high in Q2. What else is pumping? Are we surprised that the AI?
We did this last time, right? We did this when Bitcoin was at, what was it, about 60K? We said, what are the things that you would own?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think at the time I said Mog, Goat, and there was two others, I think. Maybe it was Pepe and...
Was Flog in there at one point?
I think Frog was in there too, yeah. And they all basically did a 3 to 4x, although they then got trashed afterwards. But if Bitcoin now was to go to 110K, well, let's say, 115, 120, what are the assets? What are the three things that you would want to own, Tyler?
Well, number one is Farokh, of course. I think goes without saying.
Goes without saying.
I think from a safe, if you want to bet on crypto AI, I think the play is virtual right now is probably the token I would reluctantly own. And I will admit, I haven't ever had a large position in that. I'm more sold on virtuals leading an AI pump than AI 16Z right now. And I would want to bet on the leaders in that category and not go further downstream. Well, I guess let me say that back. I do own Prompt. I think Prompt is a fair bet on the crypto AI round 2. So I'll make that my call. I think virtual would be just fine. From a pure meme standpoint, or what else would I want to own?
I think the other things up there, Hype would be one. Pudgy. Would you buy? I mean, Radium actually just has made like 600K of fees from this launchpad in the last 3 days. That's suddenly looking interesting to me again. Yeah. Some of the L1s.
Swee's interesting. Hype is. I mean, Hype's back at 19 already. That's the thing. So, like, what is? Are you looking for a 1.5x? Like 3 to 4x? I mean, maybe a 3 to 3x is possible. It's kind of hard for me to see a much bigger run than that right now. That's still huge. I mean, that's a huge trade. Pingu is an interesting one. Logie, what would be top of your list?
It's crazy, but well, no, it doesn't sound so crazy. But Fartcoin's the immediate first thing that comes to my head. And I think I own 100 Fartcoin on a ledger somewhere. That's all I'm holding right now. But that's the first thing that comes to mind if you tell me that Bitcoin's going to hit a new all-time high. In Q2. The other thing to me, so like Solana is interesting along those lines. I mean, it's still very much beaten down from all-time high, which was 290 or something. So I could definitely see that following suit. And then as you get further down the risk curve, some of these become interesting. Like I'm no longer interested in things like WIF, for example, dog WIF hat. But things like Trump alongside that, things like
interesting.
Like I could be swayed into stuff like that. But the most obvious slam dunk one to me, which maybe is like a me talking to myself that I should own a little bit more than 100 tokens, is Farcoin. Like if it's really going to go up, like I don't know, it just feels like a slam dunk. But I like a couple of these here on this board, Tyler. Like Dogecoin, I still like. I've never really had any affinity for like Shiba Inu or anything like that. But there's another, I think there was a headline this morning about another Doge ETF filing or something like that. Feels silly, but probably one of those gets across the line. Maybe that doesn't mean too much, but it is still the champion of meme coins, at least in my book, and by market cap, of course, as well.
That Doge chart looks interesting right there. Looks like it's painting a higher low here. Like, I mean, it had the explosive run. Say that again.
Is it a cup and handle? Are we about to see a cup and handle here?
Let's see.
Let's find the time frame where there's a cup and handle and go for it.
Yeah, it looks like maybe on the 6 week chart we might have a.
Is it something like Housecoin? Like, I have a very small position in this thing, but like,
all right, now we're talking my language. Yeah. So, is it a new meme? So, like, if you think there's a
meme will probably run the hardest, right?
I think that's a very fair thesis. I think a few things are going to happen. I think we will see a flight back to some of the top meme coins, top in quotes, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a new class. Like, I don't think WIF is going to be a leader again in 2025. I think it's going to do fine. Like, I'm not saying to short it by any means, but I don't think it's going to go back to 4. I think perhaps some of that new class could see some runs up. I do think Pingu is going to have a nice run. I think Rex is going to have a nice run. But what's going to be the new coin to emerge from the Solana trenches? I think once a quarter we see one. We really haven't had one. I guess we had to separate pre-Trump and post-Trump. Post-Trump, we haven't really had since the fallout, we really haven't had an organic new runner from the Sol trenches, have we? That's had any kind of a staying power?
No staying power. Were there maybe a handful like right after? Like, was Jelly after Trump, or was that before? I'm losing track of.
Yeah, I think that was before.
Okay. Nothing with staying power though. No, beyond a few days.
So it's pretty open. I mean, if you look at what's currently out there right now, this really don't say there's the board. All right. Maybe Troll's in the conversation. The Troll seems to have a decent group of folks behind it. It's at 30 million. We're showing Housecoin at 60. It's a little bit higher. Bonk guy's touting Hozico super hard right now. It's at 33 million. I don't really know the story behind this one. He's saying it's got a lot of views on YouTube or something.
Famous cat.
Okay. I don't know that I'm throwing my chips on Hozico. Sorry to the Hozico crew out there. But I think this is what I talked about yesterday, but there's some action here in the trenches. And as these new coins are moving up, we're starting to see more runners on a daily basis kind of fill in the gaps. So I looked at the board this morning, and there were 4 to 5 coins in the last day that went to that $3 to $6 million range. So they're not going to 10. They're not going to 20 on the first day. That first day cap is a little bit lower, but they are starting to happen more consistently. So I think it's something to pay attention to, certainly. That's the Solana meme board. In AI, I think it's more of a question of, is it going to be a new AI runner that really takes the scene, or is it going to be the existing crowd? The virtuals group is starting to get pretty loud at this new, I think it's called Virgin, this new program where you have to do something and then you qualify for these pre-sales. And the pre-sales have been doing pretty well, as I understand it. I have not had a chance to dig into that yet. But I know ICO and others have been touting that pretty hard. Certainly, this virtuals looks pretty nice. It's up almost 3x off the bottom here, back to $1.46. So it's doing pretty well. The rest of the board is doing okay. We aren't seeing like the huge movement. ARK is back to 65. Graphane's right there. This isn't my watch list. What else is moving? So Alchemy has been doing all right. It's at 150 million. Goat's hanging out. I think Prompt is an interesting one, but it's got the weekly sell pressure, so that is something to take into account. I don't think we've really seen the huge unlocks from that yet, though. So I think that will still be my wild card.
Yeah, it feels like just the winners are winning and everything else is not really doing much.
And there's no new launches really, which is a part of this.
So
but
Virtuals is a new launch pad. Is that what this is? What it's just a better casino essentially.
Logan, I saw you nodding a bit. Have you had a chance to take a look at that?
Just very briefly, it appears to be a more or less like a pre-sale launch pad. So you can utilize the Virgin points to sort of try and subscribe to new agents that are created in a little bit more of a fairer mechanism. That's my understanding. I'm sure there's much more nuance and things I may not be, characterizing there, but just more infrastructure stuff, slightly reworked infrastructure for agent launches.
Got it.
Yeah, look, I think with all these sectors, you kind of just have to look at what happened to the biggest coin, and if that's up, then what, like you said, Carla, like some crazy stuff can happen in the mid tiers. Like Trump doubled, basically, and that just means that there's a lot of money suddenly in Solana meme coins again. And similarly, Tau, I would say, is the biggest AI coin, and is up a lot, and then that just means that people start gambling in all the other coins.
Yeah, wow, what a move. Almost double in Tau, up 66% on the month. So the leaders create a big move in market cap, a bit of a wealth effect, and then it trickles down. We've seen that play out. New wild card. Logan, I know we were chatting about this. Internet capital markets are back on Solana. I'm not sure if folks have seen this yet. Imran Khan and Alliance DAO, they're sharing this concept behind the Believe app as effectively on-chain Kickstarter for ideas and projects. A founder can come up with an idea, post it with this launch a coin, a token is created, and then based on how it's traded, fees generated, that founder can decide to effectively launch the project or not. Can you take us through this one?
Yeah.
In your early thoughts.
Yeah, so it appears to be basically a relaunch of Clout. If you remember, I guess that would have been December or early January. Clout from Ben Pasternak never really launched, but this appears to be its revitalization, rebrand, whatever. But exactly as you described, Tyler, and as Imran lays out here, so somebody can have an idea for something, sort of outline their idea in a post just like this, and tag that launch a coin Twitter to create a coin alongside it, more or less. So a coin attached to the idea. You can also have people scout ideas. So if you posted an idea, Tyler, a really, really long one, somebody could, kind of reply or scout and attach a coin to that idea as well. And just like anything else, right, the token trades, earn fees for it, and then the person who created or who owns the idea then, yes, can claim the fees. They are vested, I believe, but reading through some of the replies from Iran, it appears that more information is going to come out, but there is some vesting related to the idea owner here. So it's not just like you can just take the money and then run. But yeah, it's on-chain Kickstarter, more or less. And there were I think 3 or 4 launches yesterday. Yeah, here's the tweet. There's like that luxury furniture company that token is at it was at 4 million when I looked before the show. So some of these have done quite well thus far, I would say. Much better than some of the initial launches that came from, aside from the Pasternak coin, much better than any of the other tokens, I believe, that launched on Clout to start. So
I guess the core differentiator here then is it's launch a coin, but it's not just for pure shit coins, meme coins.
Right. And it's not just tied to the individual. These aren't just like creator coins, right? It's intended to be tied to the idea or the product or whatever. So in the case of Dupe, which I don't know anything about, I'm just using the description, affordable luxury furniture, right? Guy writes out his theses, I imagine, or something like that, right? Showcases any previous sales or whatever else he's done. It's kind of like Shark Tank in a way, right? You sort of like, or it feels like it could be like that. You're just like pitching your Twitter crowd, and then they can, of course, buy the token, earn the fees, and the creator can then use those fees to actually build the business. And of course, I'm not entirely sure how some of the I guess the token is designed to be the equity, if you extract it enough from the initial idea, like how do the people win? I guess the token going up, but there's that angle of speculation here that I feel like still doesn't quite answer for, the overall idea, if that makes sense.
It does. I think that was my first struggle with it, just as a conceptual basis, is why do you want to buy the token before there's a product? Like, you're kind of just betting on a founder that you perhaps don't know, who hasn't built the product yet. So I don't know. I mean, it's very, very early stage investing, I guess, is one way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, and at least with the way like Kickstarter works, right, is like if you're engaging with the Kickstarter, you're entitled to select benefits typically, right? Like you get the product early, or you get like a special version of the product, things like that. I imagine this will have some component of that as well. So if you were buying dupe early, like maybe you get a huge discount on luxury furniture, or maybe you get access to luxury furniture. Like that actually makes sense to me, right? Kickstarter, of course, has been very, very successful utilizing that almost exact same mechanism. I just don't exactly know life cycle of the token. That's the big what if for me. It's like, okay, you've invested early because you think the idea is cool. The token and the fees are vested, so the founder can't just take them and run. Like, I get that. Okay, I'm on board. I'm tracking. But like, what's the allure of maintaining exposure to this token beyond, 3 days of speculative fervor? I don't know. That's the part I'm missing right now. Maybe that's spelled out in a variety of these posts that aren't coherently strung together. I don't know, but it does seem there should be more information coming. Very successful launch though. I think Ben said 60 million in volume or something crazy like that on the first few tokens. Hundreds of thousands of dollars raised in fees for these idea owners, project founders, however they'd like to be recognized. So that's cool, and I'm all for experimenting. So no knocking this in any way. I don't, as someone who would consider participating, I would be participating right now for the speculative fervor in the very beginning, right? Looking to get in and out, capitalize on people being excited about a new thing versus, actually being interested in these ideas and the future of these products, which is a little unfair, of course, but like, that's just the honesty of what many people participating probably are doing.
Yeah. You need to take a look at how their bonding curves work and all this. Like, are you able to invest at like 100K market cap? Like, that feels too low. And like, as a founder, you wouldn't even want to give away token equity in your company at such a low valuation either, right? So there's some details. It feels like they're still kind of working through a lot of this. It kind of feels like they kind of launched it to see if it would have any demand, and it has. So perhaps they're going to go back and revisit some of the details, which makes sense. But 3 products already launched in the first day. We saw Dupe see $30 million in volume. So it's big. I think these founders are going to quickly learn that if they want the token to do well, they're going to have to manage the product as well as the token holder expectations, which we know can be quite the job.
There's also, and maybe this is like not as much of a worry with the current administration, but like, I feel like this type of idea, or the raising of funds for projects, right, via token launches, that's been around for a long, long time. Jelly just kind of did something similar to that not too long ago. But like, there's obviously some actual regulatory potential concerns here. No, like you can't just like sell equity in this way without like, I don't know. I guess they're not calling it equity, of course. I don't know how it differentiates itself. I mean, to me, it's a proxy for equity or whatever. So I don't know.
But then what's the point of the token, right? You're just betting on how viral it's going to go. I think what's interesting about Dupe, and I saw this in some of the replies. So I'm seeing, Nikita was touting this a year ago. So this is not necessarily a new idea or business here. So, and this is just one example. that is a little bit interesting to see. I think Nikita also helped get this one off the ground yesterday. So he was touting it. He got some negative pushback on this, folks saying it was already around, which he responded to and jerked back this morning. But it's an interesting new idea. We will continue to follow these tokens, and clearly some big price action early on as well. So that mostly goes through the headlines from the day. I think folks may have seen that Pudgy Penguin sale. That was a big one, the left-facing Pudgy. It's a 101, the only one facing left.
So is he down a lot on that sale?
Yes. Yes, indeed. It previously sold for 400 ETH 3 years ago. So a 200 ETH loss. But in USD terms, that was $673,000.
Did he comment on this? He's normally pretty vocal, isn't he?
I have not seen it.
Is it like kinky bed bugs or something?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think is his handle. So I was a little surprised to see like no statements on such a big. It was a very splashy buy, right, and a bit of a controversial one. It looks like he had a loan out, a 60 ETH loan against it. So when he sold it on Gandhi, he cleared 140 ETH and paid off the 60 ETH loan.
I don't see. Sorry, I was scrolling through his feed. I don't see any tweets about it. He has changed his PFP. It's like a Power Ranger or something now. But man, it's kind of painful.
Yeah.
There was an opportunity to sell this for much more at some point, was there not? I mean, there had to have been. Maybe not much more, but more at some point.
The way
Not
NFTs, they went
USD
more
terms.
fungible, didn't they? Like just everything about them went more fungible. I think he was probably one of the last like big one-of-one style sell, apart from punks, right? Everything else is like, how many tokens are you gonna get? Well, everyone gets the same amount of the tokens. Like for all the points for the airdrop farming, it was the same amount. So like it just felt like the wrong. He was always going to lose money on that after all those incentives changed.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. We saw a decent round of gold and diamond sales. So the Pudgy floor went to 100K. I don't know if folks remember that. Pudgies were 100K ahead of that Pingu launch. So I would imagine if he tried to sell it then, maybe he could have gotten a touch more. But I think Mando's right. I think when you introduce all the fungible tokens to this, it definitely hurts mid-tiers or hurts rares. But an interesting sale nonetheless. I think the question is, even at 200, will the current buyer be able to flip a profit on that? We will find out. Well, folks, think that is the show. We're going to get to our Yeet spins. The code again, last chance to enter, Yeet50 is the code. Sims, if you are with us, I think we can look to dive in to this.
Stop. 1 second. Just need to change something.
How are we looking while we wait here? Yeah, Bitcoin.
Are we going to do coin race today? We're finding something different. Fancy something different. Done it yet on stream?
Oh, Mando, you're muted.
We can do coin race. I think it's back, right?
Yeah.
Oh, baby. Big news for our listeners and those in the stream.
Have you played coin race before?
I'm not. And I saw the early teasers. I haven't even seen
you're driving, Sim, so you can.
Okay.
I think what we'll do is they can bank 500, right?
Yep.
And then they choose what to bet on for the rest of.
Why don't we just put 100 on every single coin and see what they win?
That's not fun. They've already banked enough. We did enough banking, all right? Like let's create some content.
All right, let's get 2 winners.
All right.
I don't have the noise today, but we will have it back tomorrow.
All right, no worries. Who do we got? Pengzoo.
Pengzoo.
Little Pudgy. Pengzoo. PENGZOU012. Pengzoo. You won. You're our first winner. Go ahead and request. Come up on stage if you can.
Very big myriad user.
Up already here. That was fast. Lightning fast. All right, here comes our second spin. Reinhard 76 Soul.
Nice.
Soul Maxi. All right. Second winner, Reinhard. REIN. Hard 76 Soul. You won. Go ahead and request. Come up on stage. You won as well. That clock is ticking as always. While we wait, Pengzhao, you're our first winner. GM. How you feeling? You won.
Good morning. Good morning. Feeling amazing. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Happy to see you.
Doing amazing.
All right. Looks like we've got Rain Tie up here as well. Rain, if you're with us, you won as well, GM. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
All right. We got them both up here.
So I think how we'll do this is you bank 500. Coin race is a game. Maybe should we play one game, Sims, just to show?
Yeah. It'll auto play. What is it? This also has sound, if I'm not mistaken. It should.
It has the Halo guy doing the audio.
Amazing, by the way.
It's like the 1 second chart of all these coins.
Yeah.
Down. Bitcoin wins.
I'm on that time. So
do you want to quickly explain it, Mike, and then we can let people pick once we're ready?
You're going to choose one of these. Obviously, there's a different multiplier if they win. Bitcoin, Ethereum is about 2 or 3x. Solana's 5x. Dogecoin's 10x, and Farokh 67x. But we'll let it play through once or more, and then we'll basically ask you to choose 2 coins to choose from. We'll put 250 on both coins.
Wow. All right. So we're doing one more demo.
Yeah. So Pengzhao, you'll be the first to go. You're gonna have to pick 2 coins, 250 on each. Which 2 coins do you want?
Oof, that's a tough question. I'm gonna go with Tyler and put some trust in Farokh.
All right.
And then ETH. ETH seems to be a runner today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So he's got 3.5x ETH.
Oh,
200.
just do. All right, we'll see how it happens here. I think it max bet on Farokh is only 200 actually.
All right, we're going. Things out. Go Farokh. Oh, it's up there. Come on. Oh, hold off.
Ethereum's still in though. Ooh, Sol.
Solana wins.
Sol's the winner.
We didn't get 25 off to you, so we'll send 525, I think, for that, right?
Yes, 525. You still win, Pengzhao.
All right,
So
thanks for joining us. We'll connect to you after the show. You won 525.
Cool,
Right.
amazing. Thanks a lot, guys.
You're welcome. Rain T, you're up. What do you want to bet on here?
we need to be quick on this, right? Because it's like a global game, so it just keeps on playing.
Yeah, we'll pick 2 coins now and get straight into it.
Can we just go with ETH and Bitcoin?
ETH and Bitcoin, 250 on each. We
Yeah.
can do that.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
ETH does win in this game way more than it does in real life. Way more.
Wow, Bitcoin just won that race. All right, so you're gonna be in this next race, Ramsey. Just so you know, so 2x Bitcoin, 3x ETH. Here you go. 250 each.
Not like this. Down. Boom. Get it in the water. Solana wins.
Oh no!
Oh.
Bitcoin was right there, but don't worry, Rain T. You still clear $500.
Thanks.
All right. Well, man, exhilarating games. I think maybe a little bit of a learning curve for our listeners and viewers. Gotta have a little more faith in Sol. Man, that was wild. Some wild action.
You muted, Mike.
You're still muted.
I'm saying it feels like Plinko's been our best game so far.
Mm-hmm. We'll keep mixing it up. I think it's fun to have the variety.
Yeah.
Fuego might be my favorite. But, well, congrats to our 2 winners. Still walking away with $500 here this morning. Folks, that's it. That's going to be our show. I want to thank our listeners, as always, for tuning in. Thank you to our partners. Thanks to my co-host. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until then, go make it a great day. Goodbye.